wanted to step in and have a conversation about an accident that happened recently in East Tennessee. I received a question regarding it in a semi-truck accident that happened where a driver of the truck swerved off the road, or on the road, swerved into the side of the road and hit a express van that was on the side of the road. There was 4 people outside of it. It sounds like it was a situation where they were changing a tire on the side of the road. Turns out that the driver of the truck was impaired, according to the initial investigation by the police. These accidents are tremendously tragic, and a truck driver who's impaired absolutely should not happen. There should not be a truck driver driving a semi-truck with that kind of weight and that kind of force on the road, endangering other people's lives like happened here. And the question that I received came from Isabel, and the question is, will there be a criminal or a civil case against the driver? The answer to that is that they're probably going to be both, almost certainly, and the criminal case is going to be brought by the county and the county attorney or the state against the driver, and there's criminal consequences of that. So we all know about the criminal system and whether someone gets charged with manslaughter. There's a lot of other endangerment type charges that will likely go along with this after the police investigation. And that goes a certain way to make sure that they deter a driver like this from getting on the road again. That driver is probably going to be facing some prison time, very likely a long amount of prison time if he was impaired. The other question then becomes, is there a civil case, and what does that entail? So the difference between a civil and a criminal case is a civil case is brought by the families, the victims, a wrongful death claim for their loved ones or the injuries of the survivors, and it's brought for the purpose of obtaining justice for what happened. And whether that becomes a successful civil case, there's a lot of factors that go into that. And so attorneys and plaintiffs work that do semi-truck accidents are going to be looking at hiring an investigator to kind of pick up where the police left off, because the police are going to do their investigation and figure out if there was criminal activity, which they've likely established, and they'll have the intoxic reports that they're going to probably send off to the blood to a lab to see what was in the system of the driver. But beyond that, they don't really worry themselves too much about what led up to that. And that's kind of where a civil firm comes in that does this type of work with truck accidents. Impaired drivers are something that truck companies know are extremely dangerous, and the truck companies need to do everything that they can to prevent their drivers from being impaired on the road. There are things they can do to prevent this. There are systems in place, GPS in the vehicle, there are check-ins with drivers, there's training, and these things can really mitigate those accidents and make sure that the families are not dealing with something so terrible like this. One of the things that law firms do is hire investigators to go to the scene, to look at the accident, to see how much damage there was and what are the measurements, but also obtaining information from the specific truck that was involved in the accident. That truck is likely held somewhere by the company or at a tow yard and can be inspected by an investigator or an expert witness who is specialized in that area. And they can obtain information, a lot of information from a vehicle, depending on the year of the semi-truck trailer, so the tractor. It could be a situation where it gives you speed, it can give you angle of the steering wheel, it can give you a tremendous amount of information about what happened before the accident so that we can kind of piece together what was going on. So that's one thing. The other thing that needs to happen in an accident like this is someone needs to be looking at the company and what kind of training and protocols they had in place to make sure that there was no impaired driver on the road. And there is often plaintiffs' litigation where a lawsuit will likely need to be filed and discovery can happen. And what discovery means is that we can actually start obtaining information about these trucking companies in their employee file. What was in the employee file? What was the history of the driver? Was there any prior infractions on the road? Was there prior any prior DUIs or other impairments? Was there prior bad conduct in any kind of way? And was that investigated? Also, with the driver, was the driver trained properly about driving on the road impaired? A lot of companies invest a lot of money into making sure that their employees are safe on the road, but that's kind of an exception. There's a rarity to that because there's a lot of companies that don't do that. They don't have the proper training, and there's federal laws and state laws that are in place to make sure that that's been done correctly. So someone needs to be there looking at this company very carefully, investigating it. There's a lot of firms that specialize in trucking accidents specifically, and our firm is one of them, so that there is a situation where this kind of terrible accident never happens. So the answer to the question, is there a criminal case? Yes, there's going to be a criminal case. That will go through the court system. There will be consequences there. But what are the civil consequences? And what is the money obtained for the family for their loss of the love and enjoyment of life of the one that they've unfortunately parted with? That's another case. That's a civil case, and it needs to pick up right after the police have done their investigation or simultaneously and working alongside those officers at the same time. If you have any questions, please drop a comment into the comment section here in YouTube. If you have questions about the specific accident, I'm happy to walk them through with you. You can give me a call here, 602-283-4122.